These young men are looking at this situation and they're going, yeah, we got screwed. Who did it to us? And then along come people like Nick Fuentes and this Fishback kid saying, oh yeah, it's the Jews who did it to you. More than 90 civil society groups wrote a letter yesterday to congressional Democrats asking them, please, please, please do not renew Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. Do not, when it expires on April 14th, next month. This is the law that was passed after, in the hysteria of 9/11. This is the law that allows the federal government to basically get your emails, your text messages, your phone logs, your, basically anything you do online without a warrant and without informing you. And, now that ICE has expanded use of FISA to people who show up at No Kings demonstrations and anti-ICE demonstrations, it becomes all the more urgent. This is just so wrong. The ACLU, the Center for Biological Diversity, Color of Change, Electronic Freedom Foundation, Indivisible, National Immigration Justice Center, Public Citizen, Ultraviolet Action, there's a whole bunch of these groups. And they are citing recent reports by Politico that the one guy in the administration, our shadow president, sometimes referred to as Nosferatu, if I'm saying it right, Stephen Miller, is the guy behind the push to renew this without making any changes. Please don't make us get warrants like the Fourth Amendment requires. Please, just let us keep surveilling American citizens, with our for-profit companies helping us out. Now, what some Democrats are saying is, number one, if you're going to surveil us, you have to get a warrant. That's what the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution says. And number two, if you want to buy our personal information from private companies that are surveilling us and doing it with our permission, when you log on to Facebook, if you sign up for a free email account with, any of these providers, you basically are giving them permission to own everything that you write, everything that you post. The pictures you put on Facebook now belong to Mark Zuckerberg. If you send an email to somebody, it's now the property of Google. They can aggregate your data. They can sell your data. There are these data brokers who compile this stuff. They're doing it in real time. It's huge. I wrote a book about it, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America. But I'm not the only one. I mean, there's numerous books out there on this topic if you want to do a deep dive on it. But it's not hard to find the information. But the government should not be doing this. Government has power that private corporations don't have. Google can't put you in jail. Facebook can't execute you by lethal injection. The government can. You're not going to see, Facebook throwing you in a concentration camp. Our government can. Google's goons aren't going to, shoot you in the face or shoot you 10 times in the back. Government can. And so what these Democrats are saying is government should not be allowed to buy this data from these data brokers, number one. Number two, we need to start regulating that whole data broker industry and get our damn privacy back. And number three, let's close this loophole in Section 702 of the FISA Act. Let's close this loophole and just explicitly say, if government wants our information, they have to get a warrant. They have to go to a judge. They have to have somebody swear under oath that they know that a crime is being committed, and then they'll have the basis for them to read our emails, look at our browser history, that sort of thing. Free Press Action explained Thursday, quote, Congress has until April 20th. I'm sorry, I said April 14th. It's April 20th. Congress has until April 20th to reauthorize Section 702. Stephen Miller is a leading advocate for extending Section 702 without any reforms. We urge Democratic members of Congress to refuse to reauthorize these powers without key reforms, including reforms to the government's warrantless querying of communications of people in the United States without prior court approval. They emphasize, quote, the imperative to close the so-called backdoor search loophole and also the data broker loophole, which lets the government buy its way around the Fourth Amendment. Earlier this month, they note more than 70 congressional Democrats demanded a new investigation into these warrantless purchases of our location data by ICE. So now ICE knows everything we've done and every place we've done it. Meanwhile, Michelle Goldberg, who's just a great writer. I am a big fan of Michelle Goldberg and her reporting. She pops up on MS Now from time to time as well. But she's a New York Times reporter, or actually an opinion columnist. Well, maybe both. I'm not sure how she bills herself over there. But anyhow, she went down to Florida to a campaign for governor by a guy named James Fishback. He's 31 years old, and he's running for governor in Florida. And she reports back that, number one, the rally was standing room only. It was packed. Number two, it was almost entirely 18 to 32-year-old men and occasionally the women that they brought with them, but it was the men driving this thing. Number three, Mr. Fishback, the guy who wants to be governor of Florida, is openly praising Hitler, or at least praising Nick Fuentes. In fact, many of them were wearing Nick Fuentes style hats, and Fuentes praises Hitler. She said, this is from reporting over at Raw Story by Daniel Hampton, Goldberg found crowds of economically frustrated young people who can't afford homes, can't move out of their parents' houses, and are finding answers in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories served up via Instagram and TikTok. By the way, we've been kicked off TikTok. We got banned. We said too many bad things about Donald Trump. TikTok is now owned by the Ellison family, the same people who are about to own CNN. It's wild. It's just absolutely wild. A December survey by the Manhattan Institute, and the Manhattan Institute is a conservative think tank funded by right-wing billionaires. The Manhattan Institute did a survey and found that more than half of all Republican men under 50 years old, more than half of them believe the Holocaust either didn't happen or was exaggerated. Sit with that for a minute. I mean, how much indoctrination, openly Nazi indoctrination, does it take for half of Republican men under 50 to believe that the Holocaust either didn't happen or was exaggerated? Michelle Goldberg writes, if you're young and have grown up in a country heaving from crisis to crisis, social media, a podcaster or a politician can go far by promising to unmask the dark forces behind it all. And that's it. I mean, you know, young people know. They get it, that their future has been stolen from them, that their future was taken and it was given to the top 1%. That at least $50 trillion, Time magazine documented this back in 2017, $50 trillion. And the best guess now, Robert Reich, the former labor secretary, has used this number a couple of times in his newsletter. Some are arguing it's between 70 and 80 trillion dollars. Has been transferred out of the homes, out of the retirement accounts, out of the pensions, out of the savings, out of the equity, and out of the paychecks of average working people in America, and into the money bins of the top 100th of 1%, or as we casually describe, the top 1%. I realize it's actually much smaller than 1%. And that has ruined the American middle class. The American middle class, when Reagan came into office, 2/3 of us were in the middle class. 1/3 of us had union jobs. My dad had a union job. I have one now. I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA. And, you know, the country was solidly middle class in 1980 with one paycheck. Now 43% of us are in the middle class, and it takes two paychecks. So, you know, young people, these young men are looking at this situation and they're going, yeah, we got screwed. Who did it to us? And then along come people like Nick Fuentes and this Fishback kid saying, oh yeah, it's the Jews who did it to you. And then you get people like Donald Trump and Stephen Miller saying, no, it's the black people and the Hispanics, they did it to you. I mean, you get people like the Tate, you know, brothers saying, oh, it's the women who did it to you. Or these other three guys that were just convicted of rape who were business partners to Jared and Ivanka. And young people are like, oh, well, now I know. Now I know who screwed me. So, let's do something about that. This is a disaster. And the media is not pushing back on it because the media, there's a bunch of Republican billionaires who think that this kind of anti-Semitism, this kind of hate, this kind of xenophobia is actually good for them. I'm telling you, it makes the Murdoch family billions of dollars. And now there's a whole bunch of others jumping into that pot. This episode is brought to you by Native Path grass-fed collagen for better bones, joints, skin, hair, and nails. Here's something that genuinely surprised me. Calcium supplements, the ones millions of people take for bone health, may not be doing much at all because bones are 90% collagen, not calcium. Without the collagen scaffolding to attach itself to, calcium has nowhere to go. And that's where today's sponsor comes in. After 30, our bodies produce 1% to 2% less collagen every single year. That's the protein that keeps our bones dense, our joints cushioned, and our skin firm. By 60, most people have lost half their collagen. And it's nearly impossible to get it back through diet alone because it lives in the parts of the animal that we don't eat, the bones, the cartilage, the tendons. Native Path grass-fed collagen is a clean, grass-fed type 1 and 3 collagen that dissolves completely in coffee or water. No taste, no clumping. Thousands of customers report less joint pain, stronger nails, younger-looking skin, better sleep, and even improved bone density scans. To try it risk-free with a 365-day money-back guarantee, head over to getnativepath.com/Hartmann. That's getnativepath.com/Hartmann with 2 N's at the end. getnativepath.com/Hartmann.